Hello, I'm Cookie Stoner, and welcome to Cookie Stoner Presents. And I'm here with actually a really old friend, Matt Miller. Thank you for being here on our Coming Out series, Matt. You know, when I started this, you had not said anything in the beginning, and then you sent me a little message that said, "Cookie, I think I'm ready to talk about this." And something that you did say that that really touched me, or made me stop and think, was I think that little boy in me is ready to speak about that. And you've had, as we said, you've had a lot of therapy over the years, but you still were being very private in talking about it. And even though you live openly and you're married to a great guy, you've never probably shown the pain in a public fashion, and to bring you where you are now. So let's talk a little bit about. And my first question has been, it's almost like getting data. When was the first time that you can remember that you knew that you were gay, whether or not you put a name on it, that you liked boys? Mm-hmm. Probably what age?
Probably age 6.
Age 6
Probably
years old.
age 6, yes.
And so you knew that when you were on the playground that you were like, I really like little Johnny, or I like whomever. Did you ever talk about it, or did you know not to, or?
I knew that it wasn't appropriate.
Okay, see, that's the thing, and that's another thing you and I talked about that we're trying to change. It wasn't, I knew I wasn't normal. I knew I wasn't being appropriate for what society said, correct? And that's what we are trying to change.
For how I was raised.
Right, for how you were raised. And you were raised in Decatur, conservative, church-going family.
We weren't allowed to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because it was violent.
Okay,
so if that gives you any idea of the way I was sheltered. I was smothered with love, but and nobody in my family actually ever came out against homosexuality, but I was raised in the church and taught to believe everything
that the church
believed and that they preached about. And so
So you had a loving family that was not against anything, but because you were raised to believe what the church said and what was said in the church, then you knew that, they're telling me this is wrong. So, you have a twin sister.
I do.
Did you ever, as twins being close, did you ever say at a certain time as a young child that, I think I like boys?
Not to my sister, no.
Not to your sister?
Not, maybe a year before I officially came out did I tell her, a year or 2 years, but I didn't tell her before that.
Okay, another thing that I've talked to different people, and you and I talked a little bit about this before we got started, you try to change your brain to be straight. Is that what you tried to do?
Oh, God, I drove myself crazy.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
So I was working...
A little boy.
I just felt different, and I think part of that is another syndrome, if you will, that I have that makes me always have felt different growing up. But the gay thing didn't help at all. I felt more effeminate, like I had to conceal those characteristics about myself, and that even as a child, people would notice that I was different from other boys, and it got to where I was about age 16, actually, working at a video rental store, and I drove myself in one of the deepest depressions I've ever been in because I tried to change every single gesture, tone, body language about myself, and it was a dark place.
So you're having to go the opposite of everything your brain is telling you. Like, and I use this in another segment, and certainly not to make a caricature or to laugh at something, but you see how movies portray, which is a very good movie, The Birdcage. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Nathan, I know, like, okay, of course, but one of my favorite movies. But Nathan Lane is he's trying to teach him, Robin Williams, to about the Miami Dolphins or whatever, and he's like, was that something that you're trying
internally? Yes.
Internally, but when you were changing those mannerisms and your gestures, did you find yourself trying to do that, like, so I can have these manly gestures? Is that what you were trying to do?
I tried to make them more masculine.
That's what
Yeah.
I mean. You tried to. So
And I thought I was doing so good, and I thought people couldn't. I've always been self-conscious about the way my voice sounds, and so I actually tried to change that, and I thought I was doing really good for a while, and I wasn't, but I didn't want people to know immediately when they met me. I thought that would be all that they saw, and me and my therapist worked through that for probably a good year.
so your therapist tried to help you to say it's okay, just be who you are, and isn't that something? This is the first time. One of the other young men talked about, being more effeminate and how he was treated, and he was much younger at coming out. But and this is another thing with society, and I've heard it from the other side. Now I don't hang around people like this because obviously I just don't hang around people like that. But you hear people say, well, they have all these questions of, first of all, it's the sexuality, or it's the someone being effeminate, and you have you are a man and you want to be a man, but besides the fact that you feel like you're a more effeminate man, it's really not for society to say we've got to understand it for you. Just accept me and let me, because that's how you were born, and you certainly didn't. And that goes to another point, that you didn't do anything to try to say, I'm going to be more effeminate. You tried to do just the opposite. I've got to train my brain to be more masculine. Did you get a lot of bullying because of that, or were people mean, or?
So, high school was not that bad. High school, everyone's trying to find their group, their niche, if you will, and they're trying to figure out who they are. So being different in high school was actually okay when I was in high school. But
and you probably had you seem like you've always been kind of the charismatic guy, everybody loves Matt kind of guy.
I'm different now than I was then. I was always very outgoing, but I didn't have a whole lot of friends. I wasn't popular. I was on yearbook staff, so I knew a lot of people. But I was very terrified of people finding out who I was, and because of that, I actually could be mean sometimes. Like, because I was trying to hide my insecurities, my many, many deep-rooted insecurities, and I would be someone that I didn't want to be. I would be rude, and, maybe it's because misery loves company. I don't know why I did it. I've apologized to people that I've seen since then, but it was how I reacted.
It's the way you dealt with it. Like, I'm going to do that first so they don't think I'm weak.
I actually acted stuck up because I was so insecure, and because I didn't know who I was, and even if I did, I didn't want to be that person. But then part of me was like, Matt, you're tall, you're thin, you're attractive. Why don't you go to that stereotype, that gay stereotype? And I threw myself in, and they're so shallow. I mean, think of it, beautiful young gay men, and then I threw myself into that life once I graduated high school, because I just threw myself at whoever I thought I could be, and I was like, I can be this stereotype perfectly.
And that was just your way of dealing with. Now, did you date girls ever to try to sort of?
Oh yeah.
So you would make people think, throw them off the scent that, okay, he's really a.
Oh, I would play the part.
Oh, that's what I mean.
In every sense, I would play the part of a boyfriend.
The boyfriend.
Because I wanted to convince myself and make sure that this wasn't what I liked. And several girls. And I don't think any of them bought it. I think they all viewed me as a friend. But they still, I guess, wanted to date me or something. So.
How did your family handle it? Were they thrilled that you were? Was it even an issue, or do you think they thought or they knew?
It was, when I came out, it was to my close friends, and I've never had a consistent best friend until like 8 years ago. I lost touch with all the other ones, but I wasn't out completely, but to my friends at school, my sister, and my mom, and my sister's boyfriend. I didn't really come out to my dad or his side of the family that live in Baltimore and a few other places.
How old were you when you officially came
18.
out? 18. So that was sort
Around
of like
19, but
so
yeah.
like after high school. And
I
that's
said
when
I'm
you're like,
waiting till I graduate. I always told myself that I'm not doing it before then, you know. But I slowly started coming out second semester of senior year, and I was also partying very hard.
You think you were partying to
That and
sort of numb
because
that? Well, because
Yeah.
you enjoy, well, because you enjoy
Yeah.
partying, but also to. I mean,
oh yeah, it
just-
was great. It made me feel normal. It turned everything off, you know. And then I don't know. I slowly started telling people, and you know, I remember
people
this one
accepting?
girl. They knew already. Everyone knew already, and but it
Like,
was
you're wasting
similar
your
to
time,
something
yeah.
we were talking about earlier. Everyone knew, but it was my choice when I was ready to verbalize that. It was my choice when I was ready to permanently, in my mind, change the way people felt about me. And it didn't. It did to some people, and that was what I cared about so much.
So it really mattered, like if I'm going to be accepted or not.
It
Was-
really mattered what people thought about me, yeah.
Did you feel any shame? Did the shame go away once you decided to come out? Did you immediately,
So what really helped me was, so I graduated high school. I started at a college. I moved away to the dorms, and depression really got me really bad. I couldn't get out of my bed. I couldn't get out of the dorm rooms. And I ended up going somewhere to get help, and then I decided that I was going to move up north and take some time off of college because I dropped out of the college I was at. And I first stayed with my dad because he lives in Baltimore, stayed with him for a while. And then I stayed with my aunt in Alexandria, Virginia, and then I actually ended up getting this this house with a lot of other guys similar to my age, and we all paid rent on this nice house, actually. And that was when I finally was like, screw it. Like, this is me, and here they don't give two craps.
and they don't. And were these straight guys, gay? I mean,
It was. There were several gay guys. It was a house of about 8 guys, and there were several, 2 or 3 gay guys.
so gay, straight, and it was not an issue.
No, and then DuPont Circle was right around the
Oh,
corner,
yeah.
and that is, I'm sure
Oh,
you've been
yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's, you know, I would see guys holding hands, and I was like, wow, you know, maybe I can be me. Maybe I can be, you know, accepting of myself and not care what other people think, or realize that they might actually think I'm great.
There you go. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to end on that note. They may think you're great. And then we're going to come back in our second segment and then talk about how great you are. And then talk a little bit about the acceptance and what you saw up north, and then perhaps coming back down here and how any of that affected you. And then we'll be right back.